The first thing I want to say is if you need cocktail recommendations, talk to me. Because I'm over here doing my little notes, and then I start hearing about old-fashioned. There's a little debate about whether cocktail cherries are worth the money. Normally I'm 100% not paying attention, but all right, well, let's kind of jump in, and if you got questions, let me know. After tonight, we're mainly with Joseph the rest of the way the next several weeks. I know it seems like a lot. This is a lot of reading, but we're mainly in the story of Joseph, which I think is one of the the best and most there's rich stories in the Bible from here on out. So we've read about the first murder, we read about the first sin, and now we read about the first rape in the Bible in tonight's session. And it's the only daughter of Jacob, right? He's got all these knucklehead boys running around, and then his one daughter. And of course, there are some other rapes in the Bible, but obviously it's regrettable what happens, and we read kind of the different reactions that one might expect to something like this happening. While her father is clearly not thrilled with the abuse of his daughter, it's really Simeon and Levi who take this pretty hard, right? And we know what they do. They devise this really clever and yet vengeful scheme. It's doubly vengeful, right? The dudes had to circumcise themselves, and then when they're laid up, they get killed, right? Like that's twice evil, right? And so Simeon and Levi, and I've got a good hanging sentence there. As we noted in the packet, by their actions, they really put themselves in a precarious situation, because what we know is, I think I have it going on the next page, but they place themselves out of the promised line of the Messiah. So remember that Matthew chapter 1, the very first words we read in the New Testament are the genealogy of Jesus. And we're going to read about how this week about Judah and Tamar, and she's one of the women who's mentioned in the lineage of Jesus. And all of the women who are mentioned in the lineage of Jesus, by the way, have irregular births, including the Blessed Virgin Mary, right? Hers is irregular in a different way than our friend Tamar's is going to be that you'll read about this week. But clearly the line goes from Isaac to Jacob, and Jacob to Judah, who is the fourth son of Israel, or the fourth son of Jacob. Remember, Jesus, the lineage of Jesus is traced through Joseph, right? Not through Mary. Okay, so remember that Joseph is also in this line, and I didn't want to put all the names there for you, but again, these are the first words in the New Testament, so it's a good thing to look at every once in a while. David, right? King David is in this line as well. So that's how Jesus traces his lineage back to Abraham. So the promised line goes through the fourth son, Judah. We remember Reuben had some extracurricular activity with Bilhah, who is one of the concubines, or however you want, mistress, whatever your preferred nomenclature is there for one of his father's extra friends who's hanging around. I don't know what you want to say. And then Simeon and Levi. Is that what y'all prefer? Extra friend? Simeon and Levi are out for this vengeance. So I want to think for a minute about revenge. Because I was trying to think of what can we talk about that we are reading here? And why does the Bible want to tell us this story? Yes, it wants us to have the chronology, right? We've got Jacob, and then we're going to move to Judah, and we need to know about the sons, and we're going to learn all about the 12 sons of Jacob, and we're going to be hearing about the 12 tribes of Jacob for the rest of the Bible. But I think part of the reason the Bible wants to tell us the story is it kind of strikes a certain nerve with everyone, right? That the rape of a daughter and the great injustice, the nerve that hits for everyone, and it's that's not a fun thing to think about, and it's particularly twisted with this dude Shechem because he allegedly loves her and wants to. And then it gets real weird after that. So I just was thinking about revenge as I was rereading this today, and wanted to think with you about what revenge is, because the Bible has a lot to say about how to react to triggering situations, and this clearly being one of them, right? A great injustice is done here, and we see that there's some different ways to react to it. Jacob takes a different path than Simeon and Levi do. And so, these are not quotes that will be unfamiliar to us. As Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount have said, you've heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. Of course, St. Peter later will ask him, how many times do I have to forgive my brother, and what do we do if someone strikes you on the cheek? Well, you give them the other cheek also. Turn the other cheek. I remember my dad, as I'm getting beaten up by my older brothers, I have two older brothers, as a kid, he said, John, you must turn the other cheek. I'm already getting beat up here, because my oldest brother's 5 years older than I am. So yes, I lost every single fight growing up. St. Peter says, do not repay evil for evil, or reviling for reviling, but on the contrary, bless. For this you are called, that you may obtain a blessing. So the idea of, Jesus says this, right? Bless those who curse you. This is one of, I think, maybe the most difficult things that the Bible asks of the reader. Right? The idea of foregoing revenge is this Christian idea. And so this is a question I want to place to you. What is the role of revenge in our tradition? And then it's a sort of second question, is there a distinction between justice and revenge? Because the Bible also talks a lot about justice. And I think this is not immediately intuitive to us, the answers to these questions. I have some answers that I'm going to propose to you in a minute, but if someone were to ask you, what's the role of, someone wrongs you, right? Everyone in the room has been wronged by somebody. And so what are we supposed to do about it?
Aren't we told to go to someone else, like if it happens in the church, go to someone else and then go to that person?
Jesus says this, that's in Matthew chapter 18. Jesus says, if you got a conflict with somebody, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to go talk to them about it. And what we do usually is we go talk to everybody else about it except for the person that we're supposed to be talking to, right? But Jesus, that's his direction specifically. If you got a conflict with somebody, you're supposed to go talk to them about it.
Well, Christ on the cross said, Father, forgive them for they know not what they do, so that's
right. So, and he's already, at that point, he'd already taught, you should love your enemies and pray for them. I'm telling you, I really think this is one of the most difficult and counterintuitive parts of our tradition, and yet also one of the most empowering parts of it too, Because Martin Luther King Jr. had this wonderful line, he says, an eye for an eye leaves everybody blind, right? So there's sort of this stop to the cycle when we can internalize some of the things, because the Bible, there's nowhere where the Bible says, like, well, I mean, if they offended you enough, yeah, you should go take revenge. Like, there's not any part of the Bible that says anything like that. So I have a few ideas of what I think, the Bible wants justice and yet is very careful to get us to think about revenge. Because I think revenge is something we've all wanted at times, we've all been tempted to at times. But I think there are some distinctions here. And I'm not sure that everybody would agree with these, and that's okay. And I know a lot of people in our culture wouldn't agree with these, and that's okay too. But I would say, revenge is based on emotion, and justice would be based on rationality. Revenge is something personal, and justice by its very nature is impersonal or impartial, right? This is why the state administers justice versus the individual administer justice. Revenge is vindictive. I desire, to lessen you because you've lessened me. And justice is just about the truth coming forward and a person being held accountable for their action, that vindication. And revenge would be about punishment, and I think justice is primarily about restoration. And I know that particular one is increasingly unpopular in our culture, that doesn't see that boundaries actually lead to human flourishing. So healthy boundaries is something we learn from the Bible. We understand that there are laws and there are commandments and there are things that are good for us and things that are not good for us. So boundaries are good, but not everybody sees that, because boundaries are not put in place. God doesn't put the commandments in place. Society doesn't put laws in place to punish. Society puts laws in place. This is the very nature of law, and it's true of God's law too. Is it's put in place for human flourishing. So everybody is protected. So yes, there are people who violate, ethical and moral norms in our society, and our justice system is intended to do what? To hold them accountable and to ultimately, hopefully, restore them, not primarily to punish them. I don't know that everybody sees that distinction. I don't know that everybody's even following me on what I'm saying, or if everybody's even awake.
Revenge and justice are after the fact, right? But self-defense is different.
It can be.
I mean, if someone was coming, if they caught in the middle of the race, or to stop that from happening is different from just saying, well, we'll just go and then we'll just do the justice afterwards. So
of course, yes. Yes, I certainly do not in any way want any of the comments I've made to be construed as somehow, allowing someone to abuse someone else. Because that is also clearly not the biblical vision of, people are created with incredible dignity, so the clergy retreat, the diocesan clergy retreat is going on right now, and there's this monk who's leading the talks, and his talk monks have a different way of going about business, right? They kind of spend their time in a different way of thinking about the world. But he was telling this story of this guy who came to the monastery and saying he wanted to be a monk, and the guy was just apparently everything they did was wrong, and he told them very forcefully about everything, how they did it was wrong. He was the new guy coming in. And the monk was saying, everybody was all upset, and everybody's triggered, and everybody's like, what the heck does this guy think he is? He's just coming in here telling everyone what to do, And he was feeling that way too. And then he heard this person say to him, you know, that's a person Jesus died for. And so he said, you know, it didn't make anything easier except to frame that this person who's causing all these problems is also someone that Jesus died for. And so that's the way we see, you know, all human beings. If we can begin to see them as, you know, yes, you're being difficult, and yes, you know, you're over the line, and yes, you've really done something awful. And in this case, you know, raping someone, I think we would all agree is an awful thing to do. And so, yes, we stop them, and yes, you don't have to go along with the abuse of anyone. That is not what you're being asked to do. But revenge is a whole nother step. Yeah, I mean.
It feels like revenge would be more of a self-centered kind of feel, whereas justice is for the greater good. Would that be kind of the distinction between the two?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it too, right? Like revenge is, you know, you hit me, I'm gonna hit you back harder, right? And that is spiteful, kind of, and that's different than justice, because the Bible is keenly interested in justice. Okay, so I do think there's a difference between the two, and I think part of the reason this story is told and included in the chapters of Genesis, which are all these, you know, incredibly foundational stories to us, is to help us to begin to think about that as the Bible is going to unfold. How are we going to thread this needle? How are we going to make it through with this distinction? Because we want to hold people accountable for their actions. That is important. And that is the definition of justice, right? What is the truth? And then we hold you accountable for whatever your actions are. That's having boundaries, and if people step outside those boundaries, it's just like, think about with your kids. You know, your kids, you're all the punishment. If you, hopefully everyone punishes their kids if they step out of the boundaries. But what's the punishment intended for? To belittle them? No. To correct them, right? To help them grow, to help them flourish, to help them be healthy human beings, to understand, stepped outside the bounds. So I wanted to maybe go down that road for just a minute. I don't know if I'm on
So
something
Jacob
there.
didn't show a whole lot of leadership here, though.
No,
It seems like he kind of let it happen.
he did. I think you're right about that. As one of the patriarchs, and these are the 12 sons of Jacob, right? In our tradition, these are all huge figures to us, and yet, you know, they're all knuckleheads.
He may not have known to the extent of what the sons were gonna do, but he still knew about the deal, right? The intermarrying.
He did. Oh yeah. He was involved.
Don't intermarry.
He was involved. So yes.
But during this time, I mean, I guess, so what, I guess, two things I'd say. One is, should Jacob have gone along with what they offered? Would that have been the justice thing to do? Or also were the sons thinking that, was there really any justice that would even come in and apply to this person and on that act? You know what I mean? It's like,
I think it's a fair question.
You know, so.
It's a fair question, right? So the question you're asking is like, at what point do you take justice into your own hands? In their day, there wasn't a Wendell Mitchell to come and arrest the guy, okay?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, it's an absolutely fair question. And thankfully, we do live in a land of laws where laws are enforced, and I know that there's a lot of people that are getting nervous about laws getting enforced in certain locations, and I'm up to speed on all that. And that is a disturbing development if laws are not going to be enforced in certain areas for whatever reason. But we do live in a land of laws, and thanks be to God, we have civic laws that are boundaries on proper behavior.
If you take justice into your hands, is that not revenge?
Yeah, what?
guess it could, I think I could probably see a situation where somebody could take justice into their own hands in an impartial way, but I think it would be extremely difficult. I think it would be extremely difficult to not have it be, because it's personal at that point. And as I say, I think it's impersonal. Okay, so this plays out a little bit later with the tribes of Simeon and Levi. And I read this whole thing this afternoon that, apparently as the lands are getting divided up, and the Bible describes where the lands are going to be in great detail. And this all is happening, as they're coming into the promised land in the book of Joshua, and everybody's kind of getting set up. But I read this whole thing about how the tribes of Levi and Simeon were kind of thought to be hotheads for many generations. So you see, it's just a little bit something to notice. This is where the tribes of Israel end up. And Simeon, of course, his land is surrounded by Judah's land. And then Levi, the tribe of Levi, doesn't get any land. They have to share part of the land for everybody. And the Levites then are going to be set apart to do the priestly work down in the temple and to offer sacrifices on behalf of all the people. So they don't get any land. And so there might be some connection. Again, that's sort of a new concept that I read this afternoon that I hadn't thought of before today, but that this plays out. That their vengeance comes back later, maybe to.
What was Manasseh?
Manasseh is one of the sons of Joseph. So remember, Joseph's land is divided between Ephraim and Manasseh. Is that right?
Yep.
It's been a while since I thought about that. Okay. Chapter 36, there wasn't a single question about chapter 36. I don't know if your groups even discussed it at all. There's lots of names in there of Esau and his descendants. The critical thing just to notice about chapter 36, and I think it's why it's in there, is to establish that Esau willingly leaves. And his people willingly leave the promised land, and they want to set up shop over here in what becomes known as Edom. Okay, so Edom is another name for Esau, and this is his land just south of Israel. So while he once was cheated out of his birthright, and we all felt kind of sorry for him there, what we just observe in chapter 36 is that he voluntarily leaves. He willingly leaves. And God has already promised, right? He's aware of the promise of the land. So he willingly then, we can deduce, walks away from the promise of God.
So Petra is in Edom, correct? So
Yes. It might be actually, well, there it is. Yeah.
Who built Petra? The descendants of Esau or somebody else?
I am trying to remember the name of the people in Petra, the Nabateans, thank you. So that is the name of the people in Petra. And I believe that they are somehow descended from Esau.
And isn't there something in Revelation about, or some idea about the end of the world, that Petra and that valley having some significance?
I am not aware of that. It maybe, but that does not ring a bell. Side note, there probably is going to be a trip to the Holy Land later this year. Boy, I'm still getting lots of back and forth emails with these people. I got several today. And then there'll be like a little optional add-on, go to Petra if you want to do that. It's thought, there's a new book out in the last couple years by this scholar who did he's a theologian and a historian, did all this work, and he thinks that the three wise men came from Petra. And he has a lot of compelling reasons. His whole book is about that. So we imagine them coming from the east, but, you know, the song sort of lends itself to thinking like they came from a lot farther east, but, you know, it's just a little jump up here. It makes more sense, actually, if you think about the shortness of that journey. Then we read about the death of Rachel. This is the tomb of Rachel. The tomb of Rachel is right around the corner from where Jesus is born. So in Bethlehem, Bethlehem's not a very big city. This is just kind of, you know, where Chicken Express is over there. It's very close, okay, to where Jesus. Benjamin's the baby boy, the 12th son, and he's the son of Rachel. And just the only thing I wanted to say is, you know, this is really important because this is a plot point that you must notice to get what happens later with Joseph and all of that. Understanding that, remember, we've already read that Rachel was the favorite. She was the preferred over Leah, right? Everybody remembers that? And that he's the youngest boy and that Rachel dies just after giving birth. So just remember that later because that plot point comes back in some of the twists and turns that happen with Joseph. There's some typology that goes on here too, right? I mean, the obvious point is they're traveling into Bethlehem as she's about to give birth, right? So when we say typology, we mean connecting things to other things in the Bible, connecting the Old Testament to the New Testament. This is a way of reading the Bible that says this is part of the coherent whole that Scripture forms. So you know, Joseph and Mary traveling into Bethlehem, right? And of course this point that Benjamin's the final son, and in a certain sense, Jesus is the final son, right? This lineage that Matthew writes in chapter 1, it ends with who? With Jesus. He's the inheritor of this whole covenant tradition. All of it was leading to this final culmination of the story as it unfolds in the life and the ministry of Jesus Christ. So just important to notice that when we're reading the Bible, and any time, you know, you sort of notice a detail like, oh, Bethlehem, okay, then what the church fathers did and taught us to do, and it's helpful sort of to, again, so the Bible forms this one unit, is to sort of say, well, what are the connections here to other things that I know happened in Bethlehem? And if you start to read the Bible in this way, it really does help you start connecting dots all over the place to sort of say, God's plan is perfect and it comes to fruition in His Son Jesus. Okay, who else has something they want to say? Hang in there. We've got, I think, 3 more weeks in this study. You guys are doing great. Cocktails are on the couple from here. They've got a bar they want to go to and everything. If you'll stand, we'll